Now, the UN's humanitarian chief says that the international community has failed the people of northwest Syria. Martin Griffiths wants the UN Security Council to authorise the opening of 2 international aid crossings from Turkey into Syria to speed up the delivery of life-saving food and medical supplies.
For 40 years, Mustafa and his family have lived in Jandaris. Now they're all gone.
My children, my brothers and sisters, everyone died.
He says the earthquake took more than 50 of his family members.
Life is meaningless to me now. I wish it had died with my children.
At 60, he is suddenly alone. Like the buildings around him, he says his life is in ruins. Like so many towns and villages in northwest Syria, Jandaris was already dealing with food insecurity, poor sanitation, and a cholera outbreak when the earthquake hit. On the ground in rebel-held areas like this one, it's the Syria Civil Defense, known as the White Helmets, who lead search and rescue efforts. Team leader Yasser Nini is on his way to a destroyed building. Locals say they've heard noises under the rubble. He digs to get a better view, but they neither hear nor find anyone.
If we don't help people, no one will. Not the international community or nearby countries. No one comes to our rescue.
He says he feels the world has forgotten his country. Even before the disaster, people in northwest Syria relied almost entirely on aid for survival. International assistance has been slow to reach survivors in areas outside of government control. In a tweet, the UN humanitarian aid chief acknowledged the international community is failing the people in northwest Syria. Martin Griffiths wants the UN Security Council to authorize the opening of 2 more border crossings from Turkey. Currently, there's only 1 international crossing open to UN agencies, severely hampering deliveries of life-saving food and medical supplies. The UN says Damascus is considering the proposal.
I met with His Excellency President Assad, who indicated he was open to considering additional cross-border access points for this emergency.
For survivors in Jandaris, the time to act was when the earthquake hit. Anything else is too little, too late.
For more, we can bring in Kristen Hellberg. She's a journalist and author who has covered Syria and the region, and she joins us from here in Berlin. What are you hearing from your contacts on the ground? Can you tell us more about the situation in Syria 1 week after the quake?
Well, no heavy machinery has entered North Syria by now. No diggers, no excavators. According to the White Helmets, they will stop searching for survivors today because there's no hope to find any survivors under the rubble. But they still have to remove this debris, so they still need this heavy machinery. They cleared the streets for help, so there's some humanitarian help coming in from the UN through this 1 border crossing, Bab el-Hawa. There are some other deliveries by other countries that are using the other border crossings between Turkey and northern Syria. They have brought in some basic food, first humanitarian aid, for example, from northern Iraq, the Kurdistan regional government, or Saudi Arabia during the last few days. But it's very limited. There is no big rescue and relief response so far. So people are sitting there in empty tents. There are women and children that are still wearing the clothes of the night of the earthquake. So they desperately need water, they need food, they need tents, they need shelter and heating. And we don't have this major aid response that we see in Turkey, unfortunately. And people feel let down. We've heard them. And on a destroyed building, for example, there was this writing saying, "We have died. Thank you for letting us down."
Can you explain to us how the political situation inside Syria is affecting the humanitarian efforts there?
The front lines inside Syria are definitely hampering a rapid and pragmatic humanitarian aid because both the Assad regime, but also the Islamist militias that are allied with President Erdogan in the Turkish-occupied territories in north of Aleppo, they have prevented aid from reaching the affected areas. The self-administration, the Kurdish self-administration in northeast Syria has tried to send 100 diesel trucks and other humanitarian aid to these regions. They were stopped by the regime, and they were not let in by the Syrian National Army, which are Erdogan's mercenaries on the ground. At the same time, we hear that HTS, The extremists that control Idlib have also stopped aid coming in from regime-held areas, demanding 40% of the aid deliveries. So basically every militia and every military force that controls a checkpoint within Syria tries to benefit from these aid deliveries, asking for a share before allowing it to pass.
Meanwhile, the people are freezing and dying. What can be done to speed up or to make international aid be delivered to Syria?
Well, there are two things. First of all, the UN have to use all border crossings from Turkey into Syria for a major humanitarian response. They should not wait for the Security Council to approve that. They should not wait for approval by the Assad regime, because in international law, there is no need for a UN resolution if you want to reach people in need. So the UN have limited their own scope of action by doing this in the past, asking for a UN resolution for cross-border aid. This is the time to stop this mechanism and to reach the people directly, because Russia and the Syrian regime have channeled almost all the humanitarian aid during the last years already through Damascus, where the Assad regime benefits from it and it abuses it. So therefore, the emergency aid should not be channeled through Damascus. The second point is, through international non-governmental organizations, you can reach the people in need because they have partners on the ground in the country. So these are big organizations like CARE, like Save the Children, Syrian American Medical Society, Doctors Without Borders. So go local, go directly. The channels are there. They have to be enlarged to make sure that those that are most affected within Syria are finally being reached.
Kristin Hellberg, thank you so much. That was very clear. Thanks for your analysis.
My pleasure.